What's up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Unaligned and Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Jack, or the Twisted Wanderer. And as you all know, I have scoliosis and a spinal fusion. I infused from T3 to L1 about 9 years post-op. And today, in honor of spooky season, we are talking about myths about scoliosis, because those can be scarier than the facts. So we're going to break down some myths. I'm going to answer some questions, and as always, just share a little bit of lived-in experiences and advice living with my own scoliosis and spinal fusion. So without further ado, let's scoliosis into the episode. Myths about scoliosis. There are many. Today we're gonna break a few of those myths. A few that I found. We're gonna talk about a couple of them, both pre and post op. But one myth that I found quite, that could be scary if you're someone who is debating on a spinal fusion. Being told that you need surgery, a lot of feelings go into that already, and why there are myths online about such things is just not great. So I figured let's break that down for someone who may be debating having surgery and is finding all these terrible things online. So the first myth I want to break here is spinal fusion means you can never bend again. Okay. No, that is not true. While a spinal fusion definitely makes us lose some range of motion and adapt to life with movement differently, it doesn't mean that you're never going to be able to bend again. I will say it's probably not the best to bend at your waist. That's just not good for you. It's not good for you in general. It's not the best way to go about picking up an object, but it's extremely not good for you when you do have a spinal fusion. But what I will say is learning how to squat and hinge your hips correctly are both great movements that you're able to do with a spinal fusion that will be able to help you adapt. But absolutely, you will be able to bend in different ways. Maybe not from, like how I just said, from the waist, but we shouldn't be doing that anyway. It's not the best for you to start with, especially with the fusion and scoliosis. So yes, you'll be able to bend again, just differently. We have to learn how to adapt, and I think that makes us pretty badass. We're able to adapt with 23 screws and 2 rods in our spine. So that's pretty badass if you ask me. The second myth I want to break here is scoliosis always gets worse unless you have surgery. So yes and no. This is a myth because it's not exactly true. Depending on where you are, your curvature type, the degree of your curve, there are other ways to take care of our spine. There's something called the Schroff method, which uses breathing exercises along with being in your neutral posture to help stop the progression of scoliosis and your curvature. So while, yes, your curvature can get worse without surgery, it can also get worse without, taking care of it or proper care or working out. So many curves stay stable. It just really depends on each person. So every case is so different, but if you're just hearing you're getting diagnosed with scoliosis for the first time, I definitely recommend more than one opinion before you just jump to surgery. I've shared in the past, I denied surgery at the age of 18 years old. I saw 3 surgeons. 3 surgeons said, go for surgery. 3 surgeons said, no. So at the end of the day, I needed surgery anyway, but I explored my options and I made my decision as an 18-year-old adult. My parents supported me, and that was my decision at that point in time in my life. But just seek out your options. Don't just be like, oh my gosh, I need surgery. If that day comes, that day comes. But if you're just getting this diagnosis, explore, find your options. See more than one doctor, get second opinions, and, research Schroth. Bring that up to your doctor. See if that's an option for you. Scoliosis, like Pilates for scoliosis, has been known to show with the right exercises and regimen, it's been shown to stabilize curvatures, to help with progression. So there are so many ways to help your scoliosis spine without surgery. But, if surgery does end up being the best option for you, then that's the best option for you. It was the best option for me later on in life after I denied it. But I wouldn't change my own decisions in my course of me navigating this just because I feel like I had a say in it. Did I find Schroth and other things along the way? No, I feel like I didn't really have community or anything to really go off of. I was kind of in the dark and alone by myself through this journey. I mean, I love my parents, but we just didn't know, and I don't know. So back to what I'm saying. I digress a bit. Myth, scoliosis always gets worse unless you get surgery. It's a myth. There are other ways besides surgery to care for your spine. It just depends on, like I said, the degree of your curve type, and just everyone's journey is different. But please know there are more than one options other than surgery to care for your spine. But again, if surgery ends up being your best option, that's your best option. And welcome to the Fuse Club. We're here. We're fun. Welcome. So the other myth I want to talk about is, I feel like we hear this a lot, so I just want to talk about it, and it may seem silly, but that myth is that bad posture causes scoliosis. No. Most cases of scoliosis are idiopathic, meaning it's nothing that you did, that I did, that anyone did to get this diagnosis. Sometimes we just don't know, and that is what most cases are. They're idiopathic. We don't know why we have scoliosis. So that is a myth. Don't put this on yourself. That is the least thing you need if this is a new diagnosis and a new journey you're on. Nothing that you've done caused this to be brought upon you. You are just a beautiful person living your life, and now scoliosis is a part of that life. And like I said, we learn, we adapt, and we can conquer and have a beautiful life with scoliosis and with spinal fusion. So I just really wanted to nip that myth in the butt, because fuck that. There's too many. It's not our fault, and we don't need things like that in the back of our minds. Like, oh, I just stood up a little straighter and didn't slouch in school or whatever it may be. Yeah, it's not your fault. Bad posture does not cause scoliosis. Scoliosis most likely is idiopathic. That's the most reason we have for it. Some forms, I believe, can be genetic. And there's other ways, such as like a trauma incident can cause, but just clarifying, it's not your posture, and it's nothing that you did. You just have scoliosis, and you're awesome. So, yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was just a fun little myth-busting section. Along with spooky season, I thought I would answer some scary pre-fusion fear and some post-fusion anxiety. So let's just talk about that. I want to read a question here, and it says, if I ignore my 30-degree curve, can it paralyze me? I really related to this question when I saw it because if you listened to my 9-year post-op reflection episode this season on the podcast, I talk about how my biggest fear was paralyzation and was like my surgery not going right, was going under, having anesthesia, not waking up, being allergic. Like I had a lot of fear going into pre-surgery. And one of those was like, oh my goodness, can I become paralyzed from surgery? And I Googled those risks. Don't recommend that prior to your surgery. But this specific one spoke to me because although it's different, that word paralyzed is in there and I want to talk about it. So short answer being probably not. Probably not going to be paralyzed if your curvature, if your 30-degree curve, right? But I do want to talk about if we continue to not care for our curvature or our spines, things can get worse. I personally experienced this. I don't think I've shared this on the podcast before, but I have been developing new symptoms. And yeah, 9 years post-surgery, that's a little scary for me, just sharing. And some of those symptoms are feeling shortness of breath. So although most likely ignoring your 30-degree curve, it will not paralyze you. But if we continue to ignore and not treat our curvature and not care for our spine, things can worsen, like how I just expressed my shortness of breath. Feeling more constricted with breathing in and out has been a new symptom. And honestly, it's from my lack of movement. I've shared I've been on a mental health journey, but I still don't have a fitness routine. I'm trying to do my breathing exercises. I also shared that I have ADHD and, just working through all of this to try and find a system that works for me and also not shaming myself. But my biggest advice here is to start finding out about your curvature and your curve type. Go find your curve type if you haven't already. Strength and Spine has a really great course where it's called Claim Your Curve. I believe it's like $29. It's lifetime access. I have it. And you pretty much just learn your curve type and how to start taking care of it. And then eventually, you can add like workout routines and things to it, but definitely start taking care and finding something that works with you and your body. And if anything, just find your curve type so you can start to care for it, because you may, while paralyzation is low, other things might occur, like specifically my trouble breathing and things like that. So the more severe your curvature gets and progresses, the harder life might get. Like for me, like that shortness of breath and that difficulty breathing and feeling so constricted and tight, it's scary. So while I just definitely recommend starting to care for your spine, even if it's just 5 minutes a day breathing exercises. That's where I'm at right now. So anything is better than nothing. So valid fear, but we can control. Let's focus on the things that we can control with scoliosis. And that is starting off by learning our curve type and learning how we can better care for it so we can maybe subside those fears about progression. So I hope that helps and answers this question. The next question I'm going to answer, but I will share, I did not have a brace. So if anyone listening has had a brace and wants to share more, I would love that. Please write in to unalignedandunfiltered@gmail.com. and that is where I'll be taking questions and things like that for future episodes, especially for next season. I have really big plans. So, yeah, I digress, but answering this question about a back brace, why didn't bracing work for me? Is it all a scam? I will say I've read stories. I personally am not braced, so please, anyone out there, if you're listening and you haven't braced, please comment. Open to your feedback. Like I said, email. It will be in the description of this podcast. So I want to first off start off saying bracing does work. I have seen really amazing stories about bracing. I know, but I also do know that, again, it depends on our curve. It depends on the degree of your curve. It depends when they first catch the curve. I know sometimes bracing can be, and it's all like the best success stories that I've seen are like customized braces. But it's also like bracing. I don't think it's a scam. It's just curve progression. It's not fully controllable. Like I just said before, we can do the things that we know can help, but at the end of the day, sometimes idiopathic scoliosis, we just don't know why things work for someone and may not have worked for you. So I'm sorry that possibly bracing didn't work for you, and now it's just like, what the actual fuck? Whereas I feel the same way, where I see successful brace stories and I'm just like, what the fuck? Why wasn't I like introduced to a brace in my teens or ever, so I could have avoided spinal fusion surgery? So I think just understanding specifically in scoliosis and spinal fusion that comparison is a thief of joy, but it's also in this specific setting with like scoliosis spinal fusion, it can bring upon shame and anger and frustration, right? When we see things that have worked for someone else and not for ourselves. So more so in this question, while I can't, no, bracing isn't a scam. I don't think it is, but I also think it just sucks that things work for others and not for ourselves sometimes. And that's hard to deal with. So if this is something that you're dealing with, I just want you to know we all have our own journeys. And I know it's like hard when you're in it to believe that it's all going to work out, but I have to believe that for you and for anyone on their own journey that things are going to work out. And yes, it does. It's frustrating and valid. That bracing may have not have worked for you, but I do know it's not a scam. There are success stories, but the best thing that we can do is just keep on swimming, keep on keeping on. So I know, again, I never had a brace. I hope this answers the question. I just really, I want the biggest takeaway to be is that your feelings are valid. And being frustrated is valid, and thinking it is a scam is valid, because it's like, well, it didn't work for me. Why, right? And I feel like sometimes we're never going to have those answers. So my biggest thing is here, welcome to the community. There are so many of us who share in these frustrations and similarities, and I just want you to know that your feelings are valid. The other thing I do just wanted to answer as well, because I just wanted to make sure we touched on like pre-surgery, post-fusion, but specifically post-fusion anxiety here. This is something I think I had so much fear of when I first really like the early years of being fused. And this question reads, can I break a rod if I fall? And I would like to start off by saying I asked this question, not in this specific way, but I do remember asking this question to Laura. And Laura is a doctor. She specializes, I believe, in physical therapy, scoliosis and pelvic floor. I hope I got that right, Laura, but shout out Laura. I will drop her handle in description as well. But she pretty much told me, you can get hit, and this is, I will say trigger warning. This is going to be very descriptive. So it may be if you have fusion scheduled or coming up, maybe just skip past this part. But something that comforted me, because I am like, I think she told me this when I was about 8 years post-op. So it was about a year ago. But Laura pretty much said you could get hit by a Mack truck and your fusion would still be in place. And while it was like a big description, it kind of made me feel better because, again, going back to the 9-year reflection episode of my spinal fusion journey, I share that I fell down flights of stairs at a previous job. And while I was very sore, and I'm talking like a flight of stairs, people, like at least 30 steps, okay? Big flight of stairs. And I woke up rather sore and pretty pissed off at myself, but rod still intact. So no, our fusion is really intact. We're not fragile. I know that we feel really, really fragile in those first few weeks after spinal fusion, but I promise you, you are tougher than anything. If you have gone through spinal fusion, you know that it's just a really life-changing surgery. It's a journey to keep on learning how to live with this fusion, to live with your spine. But I just want you to know that your hardware is strong. And falls happen, and things happen, and yes, be careful, but you will trust your body again, and you'll start to be able to listen to it more and understand when it's telling you things, and maybe when you need to go for a check-in or get new imaging or something like that. But please don't be afraid of moving. From my experience, I can tell you my pain increases whenever I am not moving. Okay? Movement is good for us. You are not fragile. Your rods are not going to, they're not going to fail you with like one single fall. I will say, of course, we know if you've had a fusion, this is something I'd like to talk about. Not going to dive into it in this episode, but we do know that some fusions fail, and sometimes we do need reconstructive surgery. Not something I like to think about. It is a fear of mine, but what I can share with you is that your feelings are valid. Again, it's a great question, but I just want you to know that you are not fragile and you are much more stronger than you realize. So just keep learning more about your fusion, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and keep on keeping on. Because it's a journey, but I promise you, you are stronger than anything that will come along your way. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It is a little of a shorter episode, but I just thought it would be fun. It's spooky season. I have my little countdown right here. We got 2 days until Halloween. I'm so excited. And yeah, I also, again, if you do want to be featured in future episodes of Unaligned and Unfiltered, specifically during Twist and Tell, which is the segment where I answer those questions, please write in to unalignedandunfiltered@gmail.com. That is where I will be taking all the questions, ideas, comments that you guys write in for future season of this episode of this podcast. The podcast is going to be coming to an end within the next couple of weeks. I'll probably put out at least one more solo episode, and then I'm going to take a bit of a break because I am getting things really, really set up and aligned for season 2 of Unaligned and Unfiltered. I think it's been a long time coming. I started this podcast with just no idea of what I was doing. I'm still learning as I go. And I'm just grateful to all of you who have just been a guest on here, have listened, commented, supported this podcast since, 2023, I think, is when I started to share my story. And I think we were just called the Twisted Wanderer Podcast. And now it has this whole new name and a whole community and so many guests later. It's just really, really cool to have just seen this become what it is. And I just really want to honor it in season 2 and honor all of you and give you guys a really good podcast that has all the things that a podcast should have. So just really, really excited for season 2 to be a little bit more polished, still going to be unaligned, going to be unfiltered here, but just really cool and good things coming for you all. So thank you for being here and sticking around and hanging out with me as I learn how to do all this. And thank you for your questions and your support. And I'm so excited for the future of this podcast and to keep breaking down barriers and sharing my lived-in experiences and hearing from all of you. And so many more exciting guests for season 2. Season 2 is going to focus a lot on scoliosis and spinal fusion, but also season 2 of Unaligned and Unfiltered, we're going to be talking about all the other things like ADHD, life in general, grief, just a lot more. So a lot more Unaligned and Unfiltered coming at you for season 2. I'm excited for it. But until then, I will see you guys in the next episode of Unaligned and Unfiltered. Until then, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. And thank you again for being here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.